Today, we talk about.
Alrighty then, Ash get it. No milk this time, but y'all already saw the intro, so it is what it is. With that said, Alexia, you still listening? Alexa, lights off. Ash got it. All right, so we fixed the laptop problem, hopefully. Welcome back to the podcast, episode 2 officially. And it's been a hot minute. And I apologize for that. There's just been a lot of ish going on. And I feel like a lot of motherfuckers say that kind of ish. And it's basically the equivalent of saying, I didn't feel like doing this today. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I got to tell you, man, to shut everything else down, to sit down and have a discussion with yourself, let alone maybe one or two other people or a special guest or something, that's hard to do. And it's very hard to do, especially with the way my life has been going recently. So before we get into some topics, which, by the way, I'm not even going to guarantee that we going to get into some topics today. Let me tell you. Wow, New York is gorgeous tonight. I have these amazing bay windows, if you can call them that. I don't even know if that's the right term, but I don't give a boo. And I just have this amazing view of Gotham. Been playing a lot of Batman lately. Haven't been streaming that on Le Twitch. Did recently start twitching slash uploading to YouTube my Spider-Man adventures, which Spider-Man ruined that Batman game for me because Batman was touted as one of the greatest games ever. And then, unfortunately, I played Spider-Man first. So, and Spider-Man's also based out of real New York, which I love how people have been asking me, and I've been asking myself, oh, I wonder if I could see my own building from the Spider-Man game. And unfortunately, my building isn't in the game. But a lot of things aren't like city accurate in that game, but a lot of things are. And it's just kind of incredible to be Spider-Man and climb the Empire State Building, bro. Like that ish is crazy. Just like within seconds, being on top of the Empire State Building. That shiz is a day. You know what I'm saying? Which reminds me of the fact that I'm doing all these voices. Um, I've been watching a lot of podcasts lately, especially because I've been playing a lot of FIFA. And while I play the game, I don't even have the audio on. I just listen to podcasts, and I've been just consumed with podcasts. And I've been trying to like pick up on different things that people are doing, and just trying to get a sense of how people pick up their styles and their mannerisms and their routines and all that kind of ish. And obviously, every podcast is a little bit different, but really love this History Hyenas podcast, yo. This ish is insane. I mean, let me be honest with you. As far as the two guests go, we've got Giannis Pappas and we've got Chris DeStefano, aka Chrissy D. And I'm already starting to incorporate a lot of their mannerisms into my own ish because I have a lot of that underneath myself, but it doesn't really come to light ever because it's annoying as fuck when you bring that to the real world. It works with those two guys because they bounce ideas off each other. They're clearly on the same wavelength, and it shows because their stand-ups are completely different from that podcast energy they got. And it's a beauty to watch. Like I would say, arguably, they're so much funnier in that podcast realm with each other than they are in their stand-up, respectively. And that's saying a lot because I love their stand-up. Actually, I shouldn't say that I love their stand-up. Let's not get carried away here. I'll be honest with you. Most of my exposure to Giannis, who I've known of much longer than Chris, is mostly through the YouTube sketches, Andrew Schultz podcast, Instagram bits, Mauricia. That's it. I got the, what is it called? Ass pussy. I went to college and shit. That's it. That's nice. I love that, dude. That shit is hilarious. I remember watching that when I was younger, and then it popped up again on Andrew Schultz's podcast, which I diligently watched. Got pleasure of meeting him. And we've been conversing back and forth on Instagram. That's been a lot of fun, man. And just like, connecting with other comedians, man, it's just been incredible. And I don't want to keep making every episode about comedy, but like that's just been what I've been binging on lately, man. And we can talk about that a little bit. And I swear to God, not every day, but like every so often, I write down several podcast topics I want to get to, and I just never get to them. And I think part of the problem is I haven't been consistent with these. So I don't get into a routine. I don't get up, or I don't set up a system to like discuss topic to topic to topic to topic, which would actually help me out a lot because I could transition from one topic to another, splice them up, put out digestible podcast episodes and such. It would be OD. But we're just not there yet. But this is all a process. Like people will watch this someday, assuming the podcast starts to do well, and they'll look at these raw earlier episodes as like what was to become. That's how you have to picture these things. And that's what I think I can give as advice to up and coming people is, use this as inspiration, man. Like I may never get anywhere with this, but that's not the point. The point is I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing this and this is the process, like it's not all rose colored ish, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so I've just been consuming these podcasts and like the mannerisms that the History Hyenas guys do. I do a lot of that myself, which is so much weirder doing it yourself than with two guys bouncing ideas off each other because they get into their accents, they get into their mannerisms, and they get into their, and that's nice, like they do that thing back and forth, which you would never do in normal conversation, but it's perfectly acceptable in podcast form. And that's something I'm starting to respect a lot. Is the beauty and the art of pursuing podcast form conversation, which I think I could really thrive in if I really dedicated myself to it. It's just very difficult, man. Like, long story short, I got this apartment. I was very lonely, and this was always an idea of mine, but I never committed to it. And then I finally committed to it. But around the time I committed to it, I was really starting to find a groove between New York and Iowa, and at the same time, I started to really delve into the comedy stuff. And when I really delved into the comedy stuff, like anytime I'm in New York now, I try to do 2 to 3 stand-up sets a day, man. And the last time I was here, I burned out doing that shit because I was doing it 2 to 3 times, sometimes 4 sets a night. And usually I'm here 2 weeks and I'm in Iowa working as a doctor for 2 weeks. But the 2 weeks that I'm here not working, I'm out doing stand-up. And I started making this running joke, which is actually working out pretty well in the comedy circles, where, because I'm a doctor and I have this like engineering, science, math background, when I tell my friends in such fields that I'm doing comedy like 2-3 times a day, like that's what I'm doing with my free time, they look at me crazy, like as if I just said I'm doing like 2 to 3 karaoke's a day. And speaking of podcasts, I made that joke for the first time on the Bad Asians podcast, which I highly recommend you guys check out. I did an episode on there, so if you enjoy this podcast, you should see my guest starring episode on the Bad Asians podcast. Excuse me. Which I got to tell you, man, they do a much more professional job than I do. I'm going to see if I can start using that studio that they use actually, because they have a great space down there. It's all set up, and I don't want to get into the details, but I really think if I could get into a groove there, granted it's kind of a hike to get down there, but that's just me being lazy. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have to drive. That's what I love about this city, bro. I hate driving. And yeah, I just had a fantastic time doing that podcast. A guy that's been following me from day one, essentially. He was telling me, David Nguyen, one of the comics here in New York, formerly from San Francisco, where he was doing, I believe he said 8 years of stand-up out there. And him and his buddy who's still out in San Fran, they do a podcast now through this studio I was at, where I was asked to guest star, and David found me through YouTube and follows me on Instagram regularly, interacts with me on Instagram, and he, thankfully, very humbly asked me to be on the podcast, and I had a great time. I truly had a great time. It seemed like they had a great time with me there, and I just had so much fun, like being a part of other people's podcasts, let alone comics podcasts, man. Like it felt so good to do that. And that's one of the things I commented on was like, how everyone thinks I'm doing karaoke. But anyway, it's exhausting, man, because like more exhausting than like having the energy to get on stage and like do stand up is realizing that you're spending hours waiting for your fucking 5 to 6 to 4 to 3 minutes. Like that's, because you have to, it's a struggle, man. Like no one's going to hand you anything just because you're a doctor. No one's going to hand you anything just because you think you're the shit. Like you got to put in your time. Like if you want to be good at this, you want to be part of this world, you got to put in your time, find the open mics, go there, interact with the other comics, and just make it happen, Captain. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, man, it's exhausting, man, because it's literally an all-day process. Like, I'll be done doing open mics after a full day, and I'll look back and I'll be like, holy shit, dude, I just spent 8, 9 hours doing open mics. And when I say doing open mics, like, I spent 8, 9 hours to do 15 minutes of fucking material. You know what I mean? Most of it being recycled, and I'm still bad. I'm still an open micer. I still just fucking started, right? So it's like, I'm still not good. You know what I mean? So it's just like, was that really worth it? Like, I could have been working and making an obscene amount more money. If money was the sole driving factor of all this, then I'd be crazy to pursue the stand-up thing, right? And I created a stand-up joke about that, which I'm not going to do. Just watch my stand-up, you know what I mean? I post every set to YouTube, by the way. And fuck, man, this just turned into another stand-up episode. I promise by the end of this, we're going to discuss at least one independent topic. I promise. I promised it to myself, so I promised it to you, which means I further promised it to myself, so we gonna do it. But yeah, this is just so fresh on my mind, and I haven't had a chance to like really flesh it out and talk about it, especially to you guys as my audience. So I really want to do that. And I think the more podcasts I've been listening to, by the way, on iTunes, on the podcast app, I think I'm starting to get a better idea and rhythm for this whole podcast world. So I'm really going to try to see if I can get this ish on actual podcast mediums. Because again, the content's there. It's just a matter of like pushing it, right? And the reason I kept it all to YouTube is because I'm more of a visual podcast watcher anyway. And I figured that's where my biggest audience is. So that's where they're going to find me anyway. So why bog myself down with the logistics of getting it on all these other platforms when, that's just going to further burn me out or drive my energy away from actually creating content for you guys when, again, this is the main source that you guys are going to be watching this, YouTube, at least for now. We'll see what happens. But anyway, yeah, man, I had a great time on that podcast. And I was just piecing together the fact that like I'm doing 8, 9 hours of open mics, spending time waiting for my turn to do it the same way everyone else is. So it's like you're not performing for a crowd. You're performing for other open micers, which is depressing in some respects because you are trying to impress people that aren't really listening to you. Like they're just, I know myself, like I'm not even listening to half these comics when I haven't gone yet. Like I'm just in my head, like thinking like, okay, can I use some of their bits to inspire some of my next bits in my own act coming up? Or like I'm rehearsing my own act. Oh, okay, I'm going to do this joke first and then I'm going to do that joke. Like I'm thinking all these million different thoughts. And so I'm not laughing at their jokes because I'm not really listening, which is disrespectful in some respects, but it's also just the game. Like that's just how it goes. So I can't be surprised when no one laughs at my jokes, especially when it's a sad room, it's depressing, no one's really in the mood. It's just like a sad environment. But the key is someone put this in perspective for me. They were just like, dude, that's what it is, man. It is what it is. And if you're not willing to go through that fire to come out the other end and be like, you know what? No, I know this is funny. Or, hey, I know this was shitty, but I muscled through it and I have the confidence and I got a chuckle in this open mic crowd. That will turn into a guffaw in a real crowd. You know what I mean? And like, that's how you build yourself. That's how you, kind of give yourself these battle bruises to come out the other end as like a successful comic. So like that's a goal of mine, like not everyone does this, by the way, to be a successful comic. Some people do this as a legit, just a hobby, and they find it as a release. They just want to meet other comics, hang out at the bar afterwards and go home. But for me, it's like I would never do this if I didn't think I could be like super good at it someday, maybe in 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 11 years. Hey, hopefully in 3 years, shit. But I luckily I'm in a position where I'm not in a rush. You know what I mean? Like I have a steady job, an amazing job. I'm starting to find out like this comedy thing does not pay well at all. Like we're looking at the 1% of comics who are making multi-millions of dollars. And again, that's not why I pursued this, but But yeah, like as far as like having a sustainable career as a comic, like the majority of these like well-doing comics are really not doing as well as I'm doing now, and I'm not even working full time, and I'm still doing comedy. So like in a lot of respects, I've already quote won this game. You know what I'm saying? But like it's just my competitive nature to like want to be good at something, not only because I feel like I can be good, but because I feel like I could bring a lot to the table for the world. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I could contribute so much as a comic and as an entertainer and day and just like all these other life experiences that I could expose myself to and interact with people and you know all that kind of is, you know, we don't have to get bogged down with that, but anyway, we're getting off on a tangent, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, it's just been it's and to swing this all the way back around, I think that's why it's been tough to like get back to this podcast consistently, because every night I get home after doing these long hours of just like waiting and then doing stand up and then interacting with comedians afterwards and having a good time, where I just get home and I'm just like, that was a genuine yawn, by the way. And it's tough, man. It's tough to just like sit down here and like bring it for the camera. Luckily, that is a skill set of mine. I ain't gonna lie to you, you know what I'm saying? But it still takes energy out of me, man. I'm not a natural extrovert. I feel like a lot of people slide into my DMs being like, "Oh my God, you're shy. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't believe you. You're alive." Shut the fuck up, motherfucker. No, but for real, that's really who I am. This is a comfortable scenario, like we've discussed before, because I'm in control here, motherfucker. I'm alone. I got the whole city looking. I'm looking up. I'm looking down on the whole city. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. What it do, cuz? And it allows me a confidence and an arrogance to be able to do this. You know what I mean? Because like y'all are watching me, and I'm really just like looking at a camera lens. You know what I'm saying? It's like different. But anyway, I see a little blank going on the ish, so we gonna pause it and restart. Hold up. All right, we back. We back though. Hey, all right. Sorry about that. Someday this will be a lot more professional, I promise, especially if it takes off. We'll see. I really have enjoyed reading some of the comments and some of the private messages I get from you guys that really take a lot from this podcast. It means a lot, man. And I'm sorry I don't bring more content of it of late, but I'm trying, man. I'm trying. You know, there's a lot going on. I'm doing Twitch streams now. I'm doing stand up. I'm doing still the shoe stuff. I'm still editing all my own YouTube videos, delving into new content, which will be coming soon. There's a lot going on, man. And then I'm still working as a fucking doctor, by the way. Like, there's a lot of ish going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep up with the Q&As. Oof, man. It's a friggin' lot. But yo, this is the city of opportunity. And this is where we get it done. Get it done. Woo. All right. So with that said, let's stop talking about comedy. Let's get into some topics. You know what I'm saying? Let me open up the old Dropbox and talk about some topics. You know what I'm saying? All right. So let's see. I don't know if I want to do these in order or what. Maybe I don't, actually. And I haven't looked at this list in freaking, I can't even tell you since how long ago. All right, this was, you know what? Let's just go in order. Frig it. Fuck it. Because here's the other thing you realize when you start producing a lot of content. You can fuck up. You cannot include stuff. You don't have to be a perfectionist. Because guess what? This ish ain't going nowhere. So, like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. I made a... for you sneaker fans out there, I made a VaporMax video recently, and then I made an update video on it because I fucked up and I like didn't include something, and then I'm gonna make another VaporMax video, like, and no one's gonna stop me, and a bunch of y'all gonna watch it still. It's like, dude, don't get wrapped up in the mistakes. Because the people that fuck with you are going to watch anyway. And the people that don't fuck with you ain't watching. And your new audience doesn't know any better. So just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, do your rough draft. And if you're uncomfortable with it, don't post it or don't publish it or don't do ish. But also realize that no one gives a fuck. Like, everyone's, dude, with the internet era, we have access to everything all the time. So there's no more like, oh, you had your window and you fucked it up. It's like, no, dude, if I didn't impress you now with my sneaker video. Maybe I'll impress you tomorrow with my doctor video. It's like, and if I didn't impress you today with my plumbing video, tomorrow I'll impress you. Tomorrow I'll impress you with my technology unboxing video. It's like you can do whatever the fuck you want. Cut. Don't be defined by the views. Don't be defined by the transient moment. We're just all prisoners of this transient moment because we don't know. Here's a better way to phrase it. We all are living in our own heads. So we all know what's going on in our own heads at all times. But it's only after you start doing this very consistently for so long that you realize no one's really truly there, except for like your day ones and your like hardcore, fervorous, passionate fans, quote unquote, if we want to call them fans, supporters, or whatever. Like they're going to rock with you regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like even if you fuck up, even if you have a misstep, even if you didn't mean something, or maybe you did mean something, you were having a bad day, it doesn't matter. They'll fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? But there's other people, majority of people, to be honest with you, that don't give a flying fuck. They don't give a shit. They are there and then they're gone. So whatever you do doesn't matter. So don't get wrapped up in your own brain of like, yo, I can't do this, this, or this because it's not ready yet. It's not ready for you, dude, but it's ready for the wild. They can handle it. And if they can't handle it, oh shit, it didn't go viral, boo-hoo, whatever, the next one will, or it won't, whatever. We still here, cuz. Anyway, so with that said, what I was trying to say is I was thinking maybe I'll find the perfect order of these topics to go through, but then I reminded myself, and again, this is easier said than done, because even myself, knowing all this and telling you all this, I'm still afflicted by this, where I'm like, oh no, I got to make this perfect. Nah, dude, calm the F down. Let's just discuss. We'll go in order, quote unquote. For example, I have this topic of Kanye, right? Which is a broad fucking topic. There's like a billion things I want to talk about Kanye, right? But we might not get to it all today. Or I might change my mind tomorrow. Or I might have some more to add that I forgot the next day. But it is what it is. I'll just make another Kanye episode. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's like further down the line. Let's just talk about the first topic. The word spliff. And for those that have been diligently following all my stand-up posts that I post, and again, that reminded me of another tangent I wanted to go down on, but we'll avoid that because we could always come back to it. The word spliff. I've been talking about this a couple times, a handful of times I've talked about this in my stand-up, but I love this idea of a spliff because to me, the word spliff is a beautiful word. It's a beautiful word, okay? This is going to be its own segment, by the way. So I'm actually going to pause this and restart it because I want to, this will make my life easier as an editor. So I apologize if this seems jarred for y'all, but I don't give a fuck, all right? Because I'm the one doing this ish. You know what I'm saying? BRB. Bye. The word spliff. Scan it. Let's talk about it. All right. So the word spliff. I think it's one of the most beautiful words I've ever heard. It's a fun word. It's a great word, but it's used in a poor context. And I'll tell you what. I remember I was a square. I still am a square, but I was a super square, if you will. And I remember being in medical school and I was at a party and someone offered me a joint. And for those that don't know, a joint is I guess a little cigarette-y thingy, a little rolled up piece of weed, the drug weed. And this was offered to me. And at first, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. They said, joint. Would you like, you want this joint? And I was like, wait, joint? I was just getting done with my orthopedics rotation. I was like, wait, I didn't bring my reflex hammer. Do they want me to like click their knee? And all right, that was a bad setup for a joke. But no, really, like it just bothers me that there's this concept of a rolled up paper of, not tobacco, weed, marijuana, although some people find that word is offensive now. So let's call it pot, weed, THC, bud, green grass, herbal-ish. And and you roll it up in this like little paper and then you ignite it on fire and you call that a joint, right? And I don't know the difference between that and a blunt. To me, it seems like they're it's just a bigger form in a cigar form. But I don't freaking know. I don't know these terms. I don't know them very well. But what I do know is one time I heard someone say the word spliff, and my mind was freaking blown, bro. Because the word spliff is just such a badass word. Yo, you want to smoke a spliff? Yo, spliff is a dope word. It's just a dope word. That word is O-D. In fact, it's O-A-D, all right? And I was shocked to find out that the word spliff refers to a rolled up joint, if you will, of half tobacco, half weed. So it's not full weed, it's half tobacco. And for those of you that are aware these days, tobacco is not really all that good for you, especially the bad tobacco, if you will. And, forget the nicotine part of it, let alone the nicotine part of it, the super addictive, physically addictive, and mentally addictive part of it. The tobacco itself, assuming it's from cigarettes with all these other toxins, not really all that good for you, And so you take this weed thing, which the jury's still out, long-term effects and societal effects en masse as far as weed goes. But we're not here to talk about all that. I just am talking about, in general, when you compare cigarettes to weed, one is clearly more risky than the other. Spoiler alert, the sixth. And it was just such a shame to me that such a badass word was attached to such a potentially dangerous product. And so anytime I started seeing people smoking a joint or referring to a joint or passing me a joint or offering a joint or whatever the term of a joint is, I would say, don't you mean a spliff? And eventually I got the friends of mine that I know that consistently smoke weed, which I don't know how the hell you do that ish. It's impressive to me. But some people like literally can function. Like I watched Joe Rogan's podcast, call back to podcast. And he's like smoking the whole episode. I don't know how you do that, bro. Like I love how some people like do that to perform well at stuff. Like I can't imagine how that's possible when your mind is altered like that. But in any event, I just got the friends of mine who do that to just start calling it a spliff, like straight up joints. Because joint is a weird word. Joint. Like it's a weird word, you know what I'm saying? But spliff, that's a badass word. That's a badass word, bro. So like, it would be nice if a joint was, actually, bro, joint. What's the other, what do you call them? Homilies? I forget. Fuck English and literature, bro. I don't remember the terms. Like, not synonym, but, oh yeah, isn't it a synonym where like one word can also mean dual things? So like, read can mean, it's probably a bad example. Read versus read. No, joint, like a jointing, joint, like a joint venture, like a joined dual venture versus a joint, like tobacco, or not tobacco, weed. How much more appropriate would it be if a joint was literally a joint venture of tobacco and weed, whereas a spliff was pure weed, right? Am I right? So like, I feel like that would be such a better use of the term. And I'm usually not a stickler for terms. I ain't no grammar Nazi. It's my little Theo Vaughn coming out. You know what I'm saying? Yo, that dude is so fucking funny on podcasts too. Same thing with his stand-up. His stand-up doesn't like blow me away. But anyway, we're getting off on a tangent. I want to keep this specific to spliffs. Yeah, I just think it's a badass word, and I'm so proud of myself to get my friends to now refer to, well, the friends that smoke, to now refer to joints as spliffs. I feel like that's been a small victory for me. So if I could one day get the entire world, let alone the U.S., to refer to joints as spliffs and vice versa, I think my life on Earth, or my mission on Earth is done. Okay. Is that a good segment for spliffs? Yeah. I think we're good. Let's move on to the next topic. All right. That was a fun topic, huh? All right, let's keep it moving. I kid you not. The first topic on this freaking podcast notepad I have for myself says the word spliff. Very next topic. Justin Timberlake. I cracked myself up. It says Justin Timberlake, dot, dot, dot. How the hell did he get away with that Super Bowl thing? Dot, dot, dot. And why can't we all? That's the topic, right? And I'm trying to remember what I was thinking when I wrote this down. This is why it's important to write this ish down, ladies and gentlemen, because I believe it's a Chinese proverb that says, "The strongest mind is still not stronger than the weakest pen, the weakest ink." That ish is powerful. If you're young, you don't get it yet because when you're young, you don't have a lot of memory issues. You don't have a lot of things to think about, so you just remember everything, or at least some people do. But as you get older, as you start to have to remember more things, as you start to remember more things, it is crucial to write certain things down because you start to prioritize what's important and what's not. You know what I'm saying? And we're getting off topic here, but yeah, I highly recommend you write things down immediately the minute you think of it. Because anything that's not worth remembering long term, like your address, write it down. You have a phone, it stores everything, it's in the cloud. Reference things later. Don't use your precious memory to remember things you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so yeah, Justin Timberlake. I think the theme of this was more to do with Trump, to be honest with you. And Justin Timberlake was just like an exaggerated form of this. And what I mean by that is, look at a guy like Justin Timberlake, right? Mostly likable, mostly positive vibes, mostly positive ratings. Not a lot of controversy surrounding this guy. So when he does something, quote, egregious, like that Super Bowl debacle where he revealed the yeah, there was backlash at the time, but you survive it, you hide under the radar, you ignore it, whatever your method is. You just don't lean into it, I would say. And you come out unscathed, essentially. Like Justin Timberlake, more beloved than ever, I would argue, you know. And obviously a lot of that has to do with his talent. See Chris Brown, for example, supremely talented at what he does professionally. We're talking dancing, singing, performing, entertaining. If he didn't do those things well, we'd be done with him long ago. Why do you think the R. Kelly-ish took so long, right? The running joke is we knew about all these shady things / bad things / confirmed bad things a long time ago, but they were brushed aside because he gave humanity a skill set and he gave humanity something that was very rare and very hard to find. And that, unfortunately, is just how the world works, I feel like. If someone cured cancer but also did something super bad, we'd still take that cancer cure. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to brush off the cancer cure because the person that created the cancer cure was a bad person. You know what I mean? Yo, fuck you, Hitler, for, doing all these heinous things. But, oh, you cured cancer? Hey, we'll recognize you for that shit because I don't want cancer. And then my grandpappy has cancer. We're going to cure his cancer. Thanks, Adolf, but fuck you too. I feel like that's just kind of the general emotion I get out of people. That's the emotion people have in general, is as long as you're providing something of value to me, I will forgive certain of your shortcomings. And obviously when you talk about art, it gets a little more murky, but back to Justin Timberlake, I think the fact that he's supremely talented, it's just undeniable, man. You watch this guy's camera presence alone. And I've learned this the hard way with my own camera presence, let alone friends of mine that I've tried to involve in this YouTube channel that just don't have camera presence and have no interest in having camera presence, or watching content of other people's and recognizing immediately, now that I've done this myself enough behind the camera and in front of the camera, to recognize when people just have horrendous camera presence or just don't know where to even start with camera presence. The camera presence this guy has is just undeniable, man. Some people just have and some people just don't. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big deal, man, because you could be supremely talented, but if you can't do it when the red light is shining, hey, bye, you know? And I said, again, the question was, how the hell did he get away with it and why can't we all? I think a prime factor of that is just staying away from it. And I can't remember if he apologized or not, but I guess that's kind of the point, right? Because don't you feel like when someone apologizes for something, you almost remember the apology more than the actual incident. And this is why I was talking about Trump earlier. I feel like Trump just ignores the issue and keeps it moving, and we don't bat an eye. I mean, everyone bats an eye, right? But like nothing happens. And I feel like that's part of this is just like if you fuck up or if you make a mistake, you have to recognize that it was a mistake and don't be consumed by it and keep it moving and keep getting better and I'm not saying Trump is getting better and he's like an amazing person. I'm not saying that ish at all. I'm just saying we can learn something from this motherfucker. Like we can learn how to operate in our own lives in the internet era the way this guy is giving us the blueprint of how not to do it. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't even say how not to do it. Like we should take some of the things he's doing and incorporate it into ourselves, but he's a do's and don'ts, mostly don'ts, but the way he's doing his don'ts and still surviving, we should learn from that because we all want to survive, right? But we also don't want to be shitty people. You know what I mean? And there's a way to do that because I feel like unfortunately some people fall victim to being regarded and remembered as a shitty person, even though they weren't because they weren't put in the right light. And this is not in reference to anyone specific as far as Justin Timberlake, Chris Brown, anyone else we mentioned already. But yeah, I just feel like we could learn a lot about just like ignoring a lot of noise and just like focusing on your goal and your mission. And if your goal and mission is pure and is good and you have good intentions, then if you get some backlash along the way, you just have to learn to like deal with those bruises. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, I guess that was the point I was trying to make with this whole Justin Timberlake thing. It's just, well, again, it helps to be uber talented, right? But again, as far as like talent goes, like talent is one thing, but performance and delivery is a whole other thing. He delivers the goods. He delivers making people feel good. If you can make people feel good, whatever it is you're doing, keep it up. Even if there's something you do that ends up with backlash, something you do that didn't go as planned, something you do that ends up getting you a little bit of flack, you got to learn to compartmentalize that, shove it aside, and keep it moving. Because in the grand scheme of things, there's been who knows how many years. I don't even remember when that freaking Super Bowl debacle happened, but no one talks about it today. Take Kobe, for example. Kobe is an amazing basketball player, and he was never convicted of rape, by the way. It was just simply allegations that were dropped, but regardless, he has that tarnish on his record, right? But no one really talks about that anymore. And the reason is you overcome it. At the time, I guarantee you, back in 06, he was in a state of mind that could have consumed him and turned him into the worst basketball player ever. See Tiger Woods circa whenever his whole issue was going down and he broke down, like professionally speaking, as a player. Kobe could have done the same, but he didn't. He not only overcame, he fucking thrived, bro. And part of this is me being a Kobe stan, but it is what it is. And again, I'm probably going to get flack for, quote, defending him in his rape. But A, I never said that. B, it was rape allegations that C were dropped. So it is what it is. But anyway, that's not the point here. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is breaking it full circle. Because my whole point is I'm trying to deliver a message of how we as human beings and as individuals can get better and overcome this whole internet milieu that we're all trying to navigate freshly together along with the internet itself. And I'm trying to like provide my 2 cents to like help people in general. But people are going to listen to this and call me a rapist or call me like a rapist apologizer or call me like a bad person. And this is literally a perfect example of like what I'm trying to help people understand is something that can be overcome. Like you're not going to compartmentalize this few minute segment that I'm just doing right now. Call me out on it and then make me shamed and feel bad about it just so I can put out like hopefully a million more clips after this about varied other topics that will hopefully also be helpful in a lot of ways to many people. And then this will literally just be a blip in the radar. Like this won't be remembered, assuming this blows up to be like some backlashed major controversy of like, oh, he's a rape apologist, he's a raper, he loves rape, like all this like garbage that just gets spewed out by people that just don't know better, you know, or people that are too bored or have a misconception of what they saw. And yeah, let's cut it there and move to another topic. I think we addressed everything. I just think a lot of people aren't listening, and people have selective listening. They're just listening for what they're listening for, and this would be a perfect example of that. And I feel like we kind of got off the deep end with this, but hey, we're living and we're learning. This is episode 2 of the podcast. We're just making a happen. So yeah, let's keep it moving. what a doozy this podcast has been, huh? I don't even know how long we've been doing this, but it feels like a long, it feels like a long time. I feel like I should skip ahead to this other topic. Why don't we just keep going in order? Fuck it. All right, so the very next topic is Kanye. And yeah, oh man, I have so much to say about Kanye, man. And I had this whole, again, going back to what we were just talking about, this whole romanticized daydream of like this Kanye episode I was going to have, and it was going to be epic, and we were going to talk about Kanye in multiple angles, from the fashion to the shoes to the music to the day. But that's going to take a lot of research and homework and stuff. And this is where I reach out to you guys, and I just ask that for a lot of different things, I may start crowdsourcing some of this stuff. Like I may start throwing out certain topics in previous episodes, for example, if we keep it in the podcast format. And I might say something like, hey, this is something I want to talk about. You guys help me out, or the few of you that are hardcore about me and this stuff, you guys feed me the articles and the sources of the content that I need to deliver, and then I'll be the one to deliver. And that way we'll kind of crowdsource this community of like people providing cited information, and I will deliver it in a almost like a fuck Jerry fat Jewish sort of way, where instead of like purely comedy, it's like a lot of facts that we compile all together so that there's less work for me to do, but at the same time I can deliver the content that the masses want, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, back to Kanye. Whew, man, I don't know where to begin with this shit, man, because this is a tough topic, man. This is a very multifaceted topic. And to that I say congrats, Kanye. I feel like you got what you wanted. I feel like if I were in your shoes, this is exactly what I would want to hear some nobody talk about you. The numerous onion layers to your ish is insane, man. And someday I would love... You know, we've been hearing lately about Joe Rogan coordinating something potentially, hopefully. I don't even know this. I'm not like holding my breath for a Kanye episode on Joe Rogan. I really don't. I would not be surprised if it never happens. Let me just put it that way. But if it happens, it would be great. And the reason I bring it up is because I would love for someday for Kanye to be sitting across from me having a discussion, because I feel like I get Kanye, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying I agree with everything he says. I get him. And the reason I say that is because there's been a lot of times where my own words and my own visions and my own perspectives have been skewed and or misconstrued by others simply from selective listening, you know what I mean? And unfortunately for Kanye, I feel like he's a victim of too much success. DJ Khaled triggered, am I right? Suffering from success. And I feel like that's literal to Kanye, because he embodies this thing where he's instant clickbait. So like anything he says, unfortunately, the worst bits of it, or if he fucks up, or even if he didn't quote fuck up and says something, it can be misconstrued, mislabeled, and repackaged and delivered in the most clickbaity way possible for the maximum views, for the maximum clicks, for the maximum revenue of newspapers, bloggers, YouTubers, reactioners, whatever. And that's just the unfortunate truth with Kanye. And I feel like he's been a victim of that. And I'm not going to sit here and defend everything he said. I'm not going to sit here and say everything he says is the Bible, you know what I mean? I'm just here to say there's a lot of nuggets of what he says. When I actually listen to him, the source, the unfiltered, uncut source, which there's not a lot of, unfortunately, because you fucking media folks keep fucking them. But there's a lot of miscommunication on his end and a lot of misconstruement on the media end. You know what I mean? Like, you guys just fucking run with it, and I blame you guys for that. But I also blame Kanye for not understanding that this is what's happening to him, and he needs to combat that. And I feel like this is one of the main things I've talked about in the past, and we'll talk about it again, I'm sure, because I'm like really just going off the cuff with my thoughts on Kanye right now. But there's like a billion different things I want to talk about. But one thing that just came to my mind is the fact that, like, you know, Kanye was one to complain if that's the appropriate word here, he may correct me on that, but complain about how he was not recognized by Louis Vuitton. He was not recognized by these higher end fashion houses. Yet nowadays, people are checking for Kanye more than they're checking for any of these fashion houses. So, Kanye won, you would think. But not really, because Kanye wants that acceptance, just like we all do as human beings. We want to be accepted by who we wish we were accepted by. And that's different for different people, right? Like the guy in the chess club is not looking to be accepted by the jocks. Some of them are. But other chess players are trying to be accepted by a girl, and that particular girl may not ever accept him, and that's that's a whole other dynamic. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent. The point is, Kanye could never get into that Louis Vuitton acceptance range, I feel like, and that really scorned him. That really drove him mad. Meanwhile, you look at a guy like Virgil, his buddy, now at the helms of Louis Vuitton menswear. And that's a big deal, man. Bigly. Huge. And I, in my heart of hearts, I know Kanye is happy for Virgil, but I also know he still feels scorned by that. Not because he's taking it personally on Virgil, but I feel like he's still scorned by, like, what the fuck, man? Like, I was the driving force that led to all this, yet, Virgil got the spoils, right? But I don't know how much of that drives him over just being happy for Virgil. I feel like there's still genuine happiness for Virgil because, like, if Kanye is who we want him to be, then he would be the guy that would be happy for Virgil. And I do think there's a hint of that there. But I also respect if he feels scorned, because I'm putting myself in his shoes. Like, if I went out on this mission and I had this mission statement to change the world, change fashion, change the way people see black people, change the way people see, black people in fashion, whatever. And I didn't end up reaping the benefits of my ultimate goal or grail of, helming Louis Vuitton. Meanwhile, my buddy does. While I'm happy for him, I'm still scorned that it wasn't me. But I say all this to say I think there's a very clear reason why it was so much easier to go with Virgil than it was to go with Kanye on this Louis Vuitton direction. Now, let's set the record straight. I think production-wise, execution-wise, I don't know that Virgil could do a glimpse or a fraction of the impact that Kanye could with Louis Vuitton if he was given those keys. Am I right? Not to say that Virgil hasn't or will not body the Louis Vuitton project. But what I'm trying to say is, execution-wise, I think Kanye had a prime opportunity and a lot more potential than Virgil ever will, and I don't know that Virgil will ever dispute that. But in addition, I think it was so much clearer and so much more obvious that Virgil was the obvious choice for Louis Vuitton over Kanye, because Virgil is Kanye's influence, but without all the hectic craziness and unpredictability. And secondly, he's just more eloquent in his talk and in his speech and in his vernacular, in his communication with other human beings. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. All this ish exists because human beings communicated with each other. None of this happened by a single individual doing any of this. This laptop, this microphone, this connection we have over the internet, these buildings that were erected. None of this happened without human beings, creatures with heartbeats, communicating with each other. Communication is supremely important, and I have never been reminded more of that in my entire life throughout my own experiences based on my inadequacies in that realm. But that's why I recognize them in Kanye. This is why I feel for Kanye, because a lot of times I understand where he's coming from because I'm listening to what the statement and the messages he's trying to deliver, but he just sucks at delivering that message. You know what I mean? Like his eloquence of speech is just not there. And that's not a knock on Kanye. I'm the same way, man. Like I don't deliver my message as well as certain other people do. And that's why I fall behind, you know what I mean? Or that's why I get hated on sometimes for certain things I say, or get looked at as a asshole or a dumbass or whatever, is because I don't deliver things the way I want them to. Even though in my heart I think I'm being pure in my message, if it's not received that way, then it don't freaking matter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just what it is. And I think Virgil just did a better job and does a better job of communicating and being eloquent in his message to other human beings compared to Kanye. Kanye has everything there, and I think that's part of a good communicator is a guy like Virgil can listen to a guy like Kanye and hear the message and not get mad at him and still be friends with him. Same way that I will respect Kanye's opinions on almost everything. Without losing my cool about it, you know what I mean? Because I'm listening to intent. I'm listening to emotion of what he's trying to reveal in terms of his passions. I'm not literally breaking down the exact words he used and being like, okay, he used this exact word, so that means then he's a bad person. No, dude, you have to listen to the context. You have to listen to the energy of the statement that's being delivered. And I feel like Kanye's just unfortunately not well equipped to deliver that statement the way he wants it to. And I hear it because I fucked up and I have a similar brain where the brain thoughts don't translate into what comes out. And I see a lot of that with Kanye. And so that just was a perfect duh moment for me of like why Virgil got the helms of Louis Vuitton and Kanye didn't. And I don't think either of them is worse for wear. I think they're both doing fairly well with what they're doing. Yeezy Supply versus Louis Vuitton and Off-White. But again, they're coming from the same umbrella, man. And I'm sure Virgil would be the first to tell you that Kanye has influenced him and helped him and guided him in more ways than he could ever imagine or be thankful for. But it is what it is. And there's a lot more Kanye stuff I want to get into, man, but this is just the surface level. I will end with saying that there's been a lot of shadier-ish with Kanye that I'm starting to question, especially since the whole Drake debacle with Pusha T and Drake's response and the barbershop conversations and poopity scoop details and all that kind of shit. And this is why I would love to have Kanye sitting across from me just to be able to like just get into that head a little bit. You know what I mean? But and hopefully gain his trust to have him open up to me and be like, dude, listen, I'm on your side, man. I want to show you and or anyone that sits with me in their best light possible, without bullshitting anything. Like if you're a bad person, I want to expose that too, but I'm not gonna like attack you. You know what I mean? I'll let you expose your own bullshit, and that's kind of my method if this were to go anywhere. But yeah, that would be my discussion with Kanye. Is like, listen, man, I'm on your team. But you really got to explain what exactly is going on here. And ideally, let's get greedy. Fuck it. Let's have Drake and Kanye here someday to explain this. But of course, by the time I'm making any kind of dent in this conversation, neither of them will be relevant. But that's just how it goes. But I'm sure there's going to be countless examples of this in the future to come that we could discuss. But anyway, yeah, more to come on Kanye for sure. But that's the other topic. So appreciate you guys staying tuned. We'll see you on the next topic, just because I'm going to cut this into segments. But yeah, appreciate you guys stopping by. Let's keep it moving. We out. Bye. Oof, man, oh man, dude. I've talked about literally 3 topics and my own riffs at the beginning of this episode. And oh man, I am starting to get tired, man. It's tough, man. This is not easy to have a conversation with yourself. Luckily, my brain thinks this way. I'm constantly having my own conversation in my head all the time. And of course, that can be exhausting too. But just doing it with your actual tongue muscle is literally a workout. Like it's tough. And constantly remembering that now you're actually, quote, performing / conversing with people. Granted, it's a one-way conversation currently. Would love to interact with you guys in the comments as usual. Plus, it's getting super late, so I don't know. But you know what? With that said, why don't I? You know what? Let's wrap this episode up. And in doing so, I just want to maybe open up the Instagram Live and see if anyone has any specific questions they want to ask. Maybe we'll make that a regular segment where we discuss. What do you call it? We'll have like a Q&A section at the end where people can just submit questions and we just talk about it. Yeah, so let's do that. We'll see if this becomes a regular segment because nobody give a fuck. I do what I want. All right, let's see if we can go live. Checking connection. You are now live. Live from New York. It's Saturday night. Shout out to Empire State. Got him. All right, no one's on the live yet, but what it is. We'll see. Here's the other issue with doing this ish late, unless I had a California crowd tuned in. We'd be able to make this happen. Hello, welcome, people. So you guys are tuned in to my live portion of the podcast. Shout out New York City. Hey, yo, Saturday Night Live. Get it? Actually, today's a Monday, so that makes no sense. Anyway, I'm wrapping up my podcast episode. And David, what up, bro? We talked about you earlier on the podcast. I'll have to send you a link once we get this ish uploaded. But yeah, this is going to be the live segment of the podcast where I'll engage to see if anyone has any specific questions they want to ask. I'll feature it on the podcast to wrap up the segment. We had a very fruitful discussion. We talked about such topics as randomness, my brain thoughts, comedy in the New York realm, as well as the word spliff, Justin Timberlake and the Super Bowl debacle. Kind of segued into Trump on that one. And then finally Kanye. We had a little segment on Kanye. So with that said, I would love to, wow, there's 13 of you in here. That's incredible. I remember back when this feed got literally two, if not sometimes zero live tune-inners, and it's freaking, what is it, 12:52 in the morning, New York Eastern Standard Time, and y'all are fucking with me. So I appreciate you guys. But yeah, if you guys have any, I'm going to take one question. We're going to wrap up on one question, if anyone has any, for the live podcast. For the late joiners, wow, we're getting like new joiners into the podcast, mad late. Anyone, oh, thank you, man, appreciate you. Tune-inners? Yeah, did I just say that? When's Complex getting you in to do some shopping? Dude, that show has sailed, man. That show is like mainstream A-listers only. I have no shot at that show ever. So unless I go viral, like, to Justin Bieber levels, which is just not going to happen anytime soon. So it is what it is. But I appreciate you fuxing with the YouTube heavy. Really appreciate that. This will be on YouTube, guys. Not anytime soon because I have like a backlog of videos I'm like still releasing. I've got like 13, 14 videos, plus a few I'm going to be filming tomorrow actually to update you. And I got a sneaker, not collection video, but an updated organization video ready to go. I just got to put it together. And there's a bunch of other ish going to be edited that's like straight up out of left field. So we'll get into that. But to answer your question, what do you think about the Air Max 90 Mars? I will answer that as my last question in this feed. But I appreciate you. A-lister in our hearts. I think this is the future of the interwebs. No more straight up A-listers where everyone's a fan, which, by the way, I feel like most fans of A-listers are fair weather fans. It's like they just would, kind of move on to the next thing. I feel like you guys really are my A-lister fans because you guys are really fucking with me heavy, and that's the future of, I think, internet content and internet, quote, fame, if you will. Check out my sneakers and fit pics. I don't know about that, but we'll see. What are you going to do when you can't fit sneakers in your room? That's a good question. Stay tuned for an upcoming video on my updated shoe organization video. But let's end the podcast and this live chat with this thought. What do you think about the Air Max 90s? Air Max 90 Mars. Just saw photos of this today, actually. So it's funny you bring this up. Maybe that is why you're bringing this up. And basically, basically the Air Max 90 Mars, I'm not impressed with, and I'll tell you why. We've had several, first of all, space-themed shoes come out. Already on the Air Max 90s as well, by the way. I believe there was a moon landing Air Max 90, if I'm not mistaken. There was, or a lunar, not lunar lawn, but although there was a lunar sole Air Max 90 as well, or several of them, I believe. But there was an Air Max 90 with like a moon print on it, or like a NASA Air Max 90. I forget. I didn't care for any of them, so I didn't get it. But that's already been done. So now it's a Mars thing. And if you're all with that ish and you fucks with NASA Vans, for example, super heavy, or NASA PG3s or PG 2.5s or whatever that ish was, I don't fucks with the PG Nikes as it is. Granted, I have a PlayStation. It was a cool concept. I'll give it to you. But yeah, I just don't really mess with it. So if you're all about that ish, and if you're about Life of a Martian or whatever that Matt Damon movie was, then hey, do you. But yeah, for me, hard pass. Second reason being, it's a hard pass for the second reason of which is, I can't even talk. Second reason I'm passing on it is because I already have the Mars Yard, which to me is such a doper, holistic concept of this intergalactic sneaker theme, colorway type of storytelling type of ish. So you got the Mars Yard, and I also have the Saucony Life on Mars collab pack, which was a super amazingly well done collaboration with Premiere, I believe it was. Yeah, Premiere. And I believe they're based out of Las Vegas boutique, and yeah, they just crushed that that collab. And I believe I wore their Life on Mars Saucony. I believe it's a Saucony Grid 6000, Shadow 6000, and yeah, not Grid. I think it's just Saucony Shadow 6000, and it comes with the intergalactic passport, intergalactic bag, shoe bag, and also a boarding pass. So it's a super well done collaborative packaging. And I remember wearing that one of the pairs of those shoes from the pack the day of my first ever stand-up set ever. It was a super nerve-wracking day, and that was a super memorable day for me. So I remember doing that because I'm a Martian, baby. I'm a Martian. Me and Lil Wayne related, cuz that's why we doing what we doing, cuz we is what we is, yeah, shit. So yeah, to answer your question, fucks that shit. I'm over that Air Max 90-ish. But anyway, we will wrap up the podcast. For those that are joining late, we are live at The Pent, doing live on a Monday night, another podcast episode. I apologize, it's been so long since the last episode, but we're just wrapping it up here. So let me just finish wrapping up these questions, and then we'll call it a night. Get it? What are you going to start the store for the shoes that are just taking up space? Yeah, I remember, man. I actually discussed that in one of the videos, and we'll talk about that in more detail coming up, because I probably do need to get rid of a couple things, but for specific reasons, and we'll talk about it. Any upcoming Jordan 1s I fucks with? Nope. I got all the OG colorways, essentially. And you really got to wow me if you want to get me to buy a Jordan 1. I'm sorry. There's just too many Jordan 1s, man. It's become like the Converse of the Jordan line, which is fine. The Chuck Taylors are dope, and every colorway is dope, but it's not like we're all out there buying Chuck Taylors. You know what I mean? Every time a new colorway drops, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you can miss me with that bullshit. Not that it's bullshit, it's just I'm over it. I'll tag Bob. Got him. Should you cop the OG Nike Epic Reacts? Hey, I'm a big fan of those. I still wear those. I'm still a big fan. Have no complaints about them. One of my more comfortable shoes, and they look slick as fuck, especially in the OG colorway. But I'm sure any colorway would work, especially if you aren't into it for the colorway and more into it for the style and comfort, daily wearability as well. So with that said, oh wow, we got one last question. I hope I get some heat that you have. Maybe. Have you been to the new UN store in New York? You know what? I should have gone, man. I should have gone, and I just didn't. And I don't know why, but it is what it is. I'm sure I'll make it down there eventually, especially if the sneaker stuff continues to explode for me, but we'll see. But anyway, yeah, so let's cut it there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been a fun episode of the podcast. And yeah, hopefully we're getting back into the groove of things. I do expect to film another episode of this, / record another episode of this in a couple days, actually, if not, quote, tomorrow, because we're already into Tuesday here. Believe Wednesday we'll be doing, and not that it matters to you guys, you won't see it anytime soon, unless you're in the live. Hey, yeah, love you guys. But yeah, this, day after tomorrow / tomorrow, I'm going to be having some guests on. It should be fun. Should be pretty good. So, Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. We out.
Bye.